So someone left in the comments the other day, like, there's so many great men, so many of us out here that women don't want. And I don't know if he replied to what I asked him, if he had these following qualities, which I found this gentleman who I follow on Twitter, Date Psych, he made a video the other day talking about men and women who have affairs, that men generally do it for variety, women do it because they're either bored in the relationship or they're on their way out. So it's for an emotional reason, and women tend to fall in love with their affair partners. And women also tend to have affairs with men who have long-term relationship traits. Now, do you guys saying this, why don't women pick me? Do you have these long-term relationship traits that women really like? Dependable, emotionally stable, successful, honest, intelligent, mature, and unselfish. And unselfish is being different from a doormat. Unselfish is being able to be there for the other person, not just thinking about yourself. I'm going to also add to that list having healthy boundaries and strength and fitness and good energy. So that's what women usually look for in a guy. And I would also have to say that a woman who's got, like, who doesn't need a man financially is more in a choice to say, okay, what's my purpose in a relationship? Because it used to be our purpose was, you know, we had our different roles, or we wanted a family or children. Well, at this stage in my life, I needed purpose. Other than that, I don't need the companionship. I already had my children, so the purpose would be like a joint business venture. That's what I see as my purpose. Like, if I saw a guy where I was like, okay, this could be a joint business venture and something I have in my mind that I want to do, so that person would have a very higher level of interest for me. Also, Sadia Khan makes some really great points in her interviews. I've been really enjoying listening to her interviews. And when she's asked what to do on a first date, she tells the men that they should invite the woman into their life. You have to, as the man, invite the woman into your life. Not like, where do you want to go? What do you like to do? But hey, I know this really great place I want to show you. I have this great place I want to show you. Invite the woman into your life, because a woman who wants to be submissive wants to be taken into an adventure into your life. That's me wording it that way. But have something going on. Be like, hey, I want to take you on this hike. I want to show you, take you on this bike ride. I want to show you this restaurant. That's exciting to me. Like, you have a plan, you have a structure, and I want to fit into your world because I want you to be in charge. I want you to have stuff going on. I want you to be interesting, fun, and exciting, because if you're not, you're just a man who doesn't have that is just a liability, because now he's counting on me. The other day, someone texted me, someone I knew, and he wanted to know if I wanted to meet him for dinner. What did he say? He wanted to know if I had any plans for dinner, and he said that he could pick me up, or we could meet at a restaurant. And he said, do you have somewhere in mind you'd like to go? Now, I gave him a whole bunch of advice about joining men's groups, because I wasn't interested in dinner with him, but saying, do you have somewhere in mind you'd like to go? And now I had to start thinking. I was like, okay, if I go with this guy, where would I go? Do I want him to pick me up? Like, I had to make all these decisions, and now I'm in my decision-making mode. And that's not the submissive, feminine, receiving mode that you men want us in. If you want us to be in a feminine, receiving mode, first of all, you have to ask us to put on our lipstick. Just a moment. Then you have to have a plan to invite us into, because if you're asking me to lead and me to make the decisions, now I'm in charge, and now this man is a huge fucking liability. He felt like a huge liability to me. I don't care that he was going to pick me up or he was going to pay, because I had to make all the decisions, and that's what I don't like. I like a guy who can say, you know what, I have this really great place in mind. I want to take you there. I might have gone. If he had a great plan, I might have done it, you know? But I'm a confident woman, okay? So you got to have something going on and have an idea. But in general, that's what women want. Because we want a feminine woman wants to submit to you, and to submit to you, you've got to take me somewhere. You've got to lead me by the hand and take me somewhere. And I think that's what Saadia Khan said also, is like, take her by the hand and lead her somewhere. But this guy is asking me to lead. So that's the opposite. That's not what makes a man attractive. That's not the kind of men that women want. When women say we're the good men, we're talking about a man who can lead us somewhere, who's got something going on, who can invite us into his world. And we are delighted to be in his world because it's interesting and it's adventurous and it's stable and it's healthy and it's fun. But there are a lot of things that can also turn me off. Like, I've gone out with guys before that lived in neighborhoods that I abhorred, that I would never want to live in, and they had their house there. They owned their house there. Or the house was really dark and gloomy. I'm like, I am unwilling to live in this house. I'm unwilling to drive through this really gloomy neighborhood. Some of the neighborhoods in San Diego are pretty run down because people haven't maintained their homes. And you might think it makes me kind of like bougie or whatever. My place is not big, it's small, but I have high ceilings, I have a lot of light, I have a lot of trees. It's very quiet. It's beautiful, you know, going in and out of my neighborhood, and I love that. And I don't want to give that up to live in some gloomy place just to have some guy. Now, the guy is a liability, so, you know, there's certain things I clock as liability. I got to make the plans. I got to drive through some crappy neighborhood. I got to be in your dark house. You're people-pleasing me, so you're looking for my approval. At least make a man a liability. And if a man's a liability, I don't fucking want him. Okay? Okay? That's what I'm trying to get at. So, my ex-husband was really good, and I'm sure a lot of guys know what I'm talking about with not being a liability. I also want to add to this video that cold approach is usually not how people meet, okay? Usually people have met in their communities. A lot of couples met in high school or even in middle school. I know people got married because they've known each other since they were kids. They grew up in the same small town. They knew each other for a long time. Maybe even they were neighbors, or they met in high school, or maybe later on in life as people became more dispersed, they met in college, or they met in the workplace. And in all these situations, you get to see someone over time in different social situations. You kind of get a feel of who someone is. And I think, to me, I like that a lot, because even when I go to a party, sometimes I'll just start talking to people, but sometimes it's nice to just kind of take a moment and observe the room, like, and just enjoy the watching, you know? Sometimes I just enjoy the people watching, like, what are the people doing and what's happening? It's kind of like taking it all in. And in the same way, like, it's kind of nice to get to know someone gradually over time. This whole thing of cold approach is very rushed and sort of artificial, and I do not know how common that ever was in the history of humanity. I mean, we are now so dispersed that it seems like people have to go on apps to meet. I mean, that is just a whole new thing. Like I said, people generally get to know each other over time in settings where they are exposed to that person over time. It could also be church or volunteer organization or the gym or the neighborhood. But it could also be that you were introduced by a friend, and now you have a trusted third person who has kind of vetted this person. Like, I know people who met at a wedding or who met at a friend's party, and now that they're like, oh, well, I know this person, you know this person, and we both know this person, so we have a common bond. And then again at the party or the wedding, they get to interact a little bit, you know. It's very different from a cold approach. Also, there used to be cases where maybe someone was like, ooh, I really like this girl, I really like that guy. And then you have like a wingman who kind of makes the introduction. So it's kind of like a gentle knowing. It's a gradual introduction to a third party. this whole cold approach thing, which is what online dating kind of is, or like, are we going to like each other based on a photo competition, is very artificial. And I think a lot of people are not meeting someone to date because they're trying to meet someone in a very artificial setting of a dating app or a cold approach. That's not how humans usually work. I think that the best thing for people who want to date, and I'm not doing this either, is to find things we enjoy and to keep going regularly, to be in regular social situations where we can be exposed to the same people over time. And that's getting harder and harder, especially with fewer men going to college. And so many women in college don't meet any men there. And more people working from home and being told in the workplace you're not allowed to date someone in the workplace. I think that's a bad idea. I think that we should encourage people to meet each other in the workplace or wherever it is. And I really think that these places like churches and gyms should have singles afternoons, not nights with alcohol, but singles afternoons or singles breakfast or singles events where singles can meet. Some of these churches, especially the Catholic Church, they really don't have anything unless you're in Washington, D.C. area where there's a large Catholic singles, or a lot of singles who are Catholic. In a lot of cities, if you're Catholic and you want to meet a Catholic person, you don't have a lot of options. You can go on Catholic Match or whatever it's called. But there again, you get a lot of guys who are avoidant, who just want to hook up. It's not any better. So I see people of all ages that are trying, and to me, I just don't respond to these artificial ways. That has never really felt good to me. But I really think that the answer lies in having like places, like businesses where single people can go. That's not just about alcohol, like, or gyms should have singles nights. You know, we need some people to step up and have singles things. But the problem is when I go to meetup groups that are singles events, you know, they're a little bit artificial, and I see the same people every time that maybe I'm not into. And a lot of people are not going to that because there may be a couple dozen people out of the thousands of singles in that age group, or tens of thousands of singles in that age group in San Diego. Like, single people aren't going to these things. I don't know where they are. So that makes it a lot harder when single people don't want to go out. They don't want to go out, or I do not know if they're going out where. I do not know where the men. So like in my personal case, I'm in my early 60s. So if I wanted to meet an age appropriate man, let's say 50 to 70, in that range, where are they? They're not at the opera. They're not at the play. They're not going out to dinner. They're not at my gym. They're not at the coffee shop when I go there. Like, I have no idea where they are. But that one Sunday morning, I went to the grocery store at 9 o'clock. I was out of half and half, and the entire grocery store was filled with hot dads. I'm saying late 40s to mid 50s. Some of them had their kids with them. The entire grocery store. It was so exciting. Recently, when I took a walk on the pier in Oceanside, I did see there are a lot of men that are surfers. They are there, and also often they're riding their bikes. They ride their bikes along different roads. They're speed bikes. But again, how am I going to meet a guy on a bike or in the water or in the middle of grocery shopping? I'm sure a lot of those guys are single, but where are they when they're not on a bike or in the water or grocery shopping with their kids? Like, where are spaces that they expect to meet a woman? So yeah, I think the best time to meet someone is when you're young and surrounded by a lot of young people in your friend group, in college specifically. But if you're not going to college, it's harder to meet someone. And once you get to be over 30, it's harder to meet someone because the relationship-oriented people are getting married. And many of them stay married. So I do like to talk about this topic because I find it interesting. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say, that in order, and again, this is just like my personal diaries video, like in case people are curious, women or men are curious, it's like, okay, why have I been single for 10 years? What is it that I'm looking for? So the first part of the video, I talked about the qualities that I want in a man, that I want a man who leads me into his life. And if he's not leading me into his life so I can submit and be part of his life, now I'm in charge and I don't want him, because if I'm in charge of him, he's a liability. And I think that a man who wants a feminine woman is going to want a woman who wants to be invited into his life. And by the way, if you invite a woman into your life and she doesn't like the things you're up to, she's not your woman. Okay, that's it. Just find somebody else. And the second part of the video was about that it's really harder. It's kind of artificial to expect to meet someone on a dating app or through a cold approach. That's not how we historically have met people. So until we as a society have more community events for singles, not just singles meetups, but community events for singles at places where they are, like the gym, like a church. Even Starbucks could do it. Even the local cities could do it. Even the local sports teams arenas could do it. You know, somebody has to take that leadership and give opportunities for people to interact, because we're not allowed to do it anymore at work, and a lot of people are working from home and waiting longer to get into relationships. And so I think that would be a good cause for like a Parks and Recs department, or you know, different companies where people go as customers, whether it's a restaurant could easily do it, or I guess they all don't want the liability of if it doesn't work out, but I do not know why they're not doing it. So those are just my tips. But I want to know, if you're single, I want to know if you go places to meet other singles, and what's your experience when you go out? Do you see single people out and about? Because I don't. Like, the men that go out, they're only out with their buddies or with their girlfriend on a date, or with the wife and the kids. Men don't seem to like going out alone unless they're with a group, or they're like have their head hanging in a beer at the bar and they look like alcoholics because their face is red and their nose is big, and they look kind of run down. I do not know where they are. They're not at the opera, because it's not a thing that men will go to the opera alone usually. They're probably out riding their motorcycle or surfing, and they're doing stuff where I'm not. So that's just all I really wanted to throw out there. And yes, I got the pair ring, but I'm not wearing it. It's the ring for singles so they can find each other. I haven't felt comfortable wearing it. I am not wearing it. So that's all I want to say in this video, and thank you so much for watching.